It was a chilly autumn afternoon when Laura Matthews found herself once again lost in the quiet corridors of the school's library. The smell of old paper and ink filled the air as shelves stretched endlessly before her. Today, her usual routine of reading and studying took an unexpected turn. "Hey, Laura." Jake Carter, her energetic and adventurous friend, called out as he approached with a smirk on his face. He was followed by the rest of the group: Sophia Kim, Ethan Torres, Maya Patel, and Chris Johnson. The six of them often hung out together, mostly at the library where they studied and helped each other with assignments. But today something felt different. "Why do you always hang out in the most boring places?" Ethan teased, his usual grin spreading across his face. Laura shot him a playful glare. "You wouldn't know a good book if it hit you in the face," she retorted. Before Ethan could respond, Sophia spotted something unusual. "Guys, look at this," she said, pointing to a dusty, thick book on a low shelf tucked away in the back of the library. Spine was worn and there was no title. Maya bent down and examined it. "It doesn't seem to belong to the library. There's no barcode." Jake, with his usual enthusiasm, grabbed the book. "Let's see what's inside," he said, opening it up. Pages were filled with ancient-looking text, strange symbols, and illustrations of mystical landscapes. As soon as Jake flipped through the first few pages, the lights flickered. The group exchanged uneasy glances. "Maybe we should leave it alone," Chris suggested, his voice cautious. But his warning came too late. The moment Jake read the first sentence aloud, the entire library shifted. The shelves seemed to move on their own, and the room's temperature dropped. Suddenly, the book began to glow, pulling all six of them closer, as if it had a life of its own. "What's happening?" Laura shouted, trying to pull Jake away from the book, but it was too late. The world around them began to swirl, and before they could react, they were sucked into the pages of the mysterious book. When they opened their eyes, they found themselves standing in the middle of a dark, dense forest. The trees stretched high above them, and an eerie silence hung in the air. The library was gone, and they were now characters in the very story they had unleashed. "Where are we?" Sophia asked, her voice trembling. "I think we're inside the book," Laura whispered, her mind racing to make sense of what had just happened. Finn's usual confidence faltered as he looked around nervously. "This is insane. How do we get out?" Jake, ever the optimist, shrugged. "Come on, this is kind of cool, right? We just need to figure out the story and reach the end. Every book has an ending." Maya, her analytical mind already working, nodded. "If we're inside the story, then we need to follow its plot to find a way out. But what kind of story are we in?" Chris, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. "We need to stick together. No matter what happens, we can't get separated." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the world around them began to change. The sky darkened and strange whispers echoed through the trees. "I don't like this," Sophia muttered, her eyes darting around nervously. It feels like the forest is alive. They continued walking until they reached a clearing. In the middle stood an old, crumbling temple. The entrance was carved with the same symbols they had seen in the book. "This must be the next part of the story," Maya said, scanning the carvings. "I think the symbols are clues." "Let's go inside," Jake suggested, stepping forward. But before he could take another step, the ground beneath them started to shake. As the earth trembled, the entrance of the temple lit up with an ominous glow. The group hesitated for a moment, but they knew there was no turning back now. The only way out was to move forward. Once inside, they were greeted by a massive, dimly lit chamber. Strange statues lined the walls, and at the far end of the room, a pedestal held a single glowing key. However, between them and the key, there were intricate puzzles carved into the floor. "I think we need to solve these to move on," Maya said, her voice steady despite the growing tension. "Puzzles? Easy," Ethan said, trying to regain his usual confidence. But as they started to step forward, the floor shifted again, revealing a series of dangerous traps, spikes, swinging blades, and collapsing tiles. "Not so easy," Jake muttered, taking a step back. Lara, always the logical thinker, studied the puzzle. "If we solve the symbols in the correct order, we can deactivate the traps. Everyone, look for patterns in the symbols. They must be clues." Sophia, with her sharp eye for detail, noticed a recurring motif among the symbols. Certain animals were paired with elements like fire and water. "I think it's about matching the right symbols with their elements," she suggested. The group worked together, carefully avoiding the traps and solving each puzzle. Every time they made a mistake, the temple seemed to tighten its grip on them. Walls would close in or the floor would crumble beneath their feet. With Maya's strategic thinking and Sophia's creativity, they finally solved the last puzzle. Traps deactivated, and Jake grabbed the key. "That wasn't so bad," he grinned. But just as they thought they were safe, a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the temple. "You may have the key, but the story is far from over." The group barely had time to react before the walls of the temple started to close in. Chris, who had remained calm throughout, finally lost his composure. "We need to get out of here." They ran towards the exit, but as they reached the temple's entrance, they were met with a giant figure, a guardian of the story, it seemed. His eyes glowed with the same eerie light as the book, and in his hand he held a sword made of pure energy. "You have taken the key, but to leave you must prove yourselves worthy," the guardian growled. Jake, always ready for a fight, stepped forward. "We can handle whatever you throw at us." The guardian swung his sword, and the battle began. But this wasn't a fight of strength. It was a test of their courage, wisdom, and teamwork. Lara, using her intellect, noticed that the guardian's movements followed a pattern, and she guided the others in dodging his attacks. Maya's strategic mind came into play again as she devised a plan to distract the guardian while Ethan and Jake worked together to weaken him. Sophia, who had always been the most afraid, found her courage. She used her creativity to find the Guardian's weak spot, a glowing symbol on his chest, the same symbol from the book. "Hit the symbol!" she shouted. Chris, overcoming his fears, charged at the Guardian and struck the symbol with the key. The Guardian let out a roar, and with a blinding flash of light, he disappeared. Temple crumbled around them, but instead of being trapped, the group found themselves back in the library. The book lay open on the floor, its pages now blank. "We did it," Lara whispered, still in disbelief. Jake laughed, picking up the book. "Well, that was one way to spend a Friday afternoon." Sophia smiled softly, still shaken but proud. "I can't believe we made it through." Chris looked at the others. "We couldn't have done it alone." As they left the library, the group knew they had been changed by the story. They had faced their fears, worked together, and emerged stronger. The silent library had tested them, but in the end they had written their own ending.